Welcome to Half-Hearted. My guest today, Carolina DG. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I like for people to come and be comfortable, and just like what I've noticed is that it's better if it's just a good conversation.
Yeah.
Rather than, me with pre-prepared questions and just take it where it goes, and then
same. It'll be great.
Yeah, I just try to I look for a natural exit point too, so it doesn't go too long.
Yes.
Go roughly an hour.
Yeah, I'm avoiding my family. You do what you need to do.
Oh, I know. That's one of my jokes. Like when I do stand up, it's this show started at 10, but because I have two kids, I got here at 6:30.
Yeah.
So I think you're one of the few people I've had on who have kids. Or you have one? Do you have one?
I have one kid.
Are you sticking with one?
I'm one and done.
Yeah.
Yes, although she did say during bedtime that she was crying for her brother and sister.
Yes.
And crying, and I just know my parents put her up to it. But I feel bad, but it's just not going to happen for me.
Yeah.
I don't know how I know that, but it's just not my thing. I'm very happy with one. You have two.
I've got two.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy with two.
Yeah.
Because then you meet the three. To me, it made sense. I wanted them to have siblings. I grew up with a brother. Because every only child I've ever met always wished that they had siblings.
That's true.
Not to make you feel
No,
bad.
no. But you know what I know is that I have a friend who, I don't believe in God, but God bless her.
Yeah.
Always says, I was an only, and I have my two and they're happy. And I know she means it out of love. But I also find that only children are a lot closer to their parents growing older in a different way. One of my best friends, Shannon's an only child, and Wanda and Larry, her parents.
Yeah.
They just have the best relationship. But I also have, my brother has one. I mean, he wanted more, but he's got one. And then they're super close. So it's almost okay, as long as they only had one, it was let's call a truce. Because then the kids are going to be almost like siblings growing up. So.
Yeah, I mean, it is a different relationship. I noticed that white people don't have great relationships with their parents.
Right.
I find later in life.
Remember that I am Filipino. So
I do.
Family is everything.
Oh, I know. So if there's three things I know about Filipinos, it's they love Jesus.
Yep.
Music.
Well, not me, but yeah.
And being the last person that a white person sees before they die.
Yes. And I have been that person.
Have you really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, really? Did you? Okay. So did you, do you know a lot of people who come in as Filipino nannies and stuff? Is that?
Yeah, I do. My parents came really early. My mom came really early, actually right down the street. My aunt came in the 60s, 70s.
Okay.
So super early to work at Branson Hospital.
Yeah.
So my family settled in at a time where you didn't have to work menial jobs. You literally came as a doctor, we're a doctor, we're a nurse. But we and I personally help a lot of Filipinos. So we're sponsoring somebody right now. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I used to work in retirement communities, started as a personal support worker.
Yes.
And then into management, but I have been that last phase.
And you hate to generalize and stereotype, but what is it about the medical profession and assisted stuff that draws so many people from the Philippines?
So, and I don't like stereotypes, but this is one that I'm okay with. Filipino people are, and Theo Vaughn talks about it a ton. Love you, Theo. Yeah. That Filipino people are friggin' jovial and seem to have a positive disposition for the most part. Just really hospitable people, and there's just a way about us. There are assholes that are Filipino for sure. I've met them that have no business.
There's assholes in every group.
Yeah, but for the most part, we are those people. And I'm really proud of it. I don't know what it is. It might be because we might have a subservience to the core, which is, kind of negative. But what it comes out to is we're beloved people. People trust us.
Yeah.
And we kind of warm up a room too. And so I feel cold white families are let's hire a Filipino nanny.
Yeah, I say, yeah. It's let's hire somebody who's Mary Tess, tell
Mary Tess.
Yeah, tell the family who hired you so they wouldn't have to take care of me.
Yes.
That I died. By the way, I left you all the money.
Yes. No, totally.
You're the only person who was nice to me.
I also know of a few Filipino caregivers who friggin' did that, married the old man and just fucking probably killed him.
Oh, yeah. Or just, I always thought it was it was this immigration strategy, that it was like these are in demand fields, so we'll go to where the in demand fields are so we can leave.
I mean, 100%. That's probably true. That probably has something to do with kind of like, the big idea.
Mm-hmm.
But it is just something that, like, even I stayed in the industry after, like, I didn't really need to.
Mm-hmm.
In a different type of role, but because I found that I really loved it. And also, white people kind of just respond to me in a certain way that gets me paid. So, I don't work in that anymore. I work on the tech side of age care, like age tech. But, I mean, I only ended up here because of 22 years working with seniors. So,
yes. Yeah.
It's in me. I was born here, but it's in me.
Yeah, I guess so. And that's the other thing, though, is like people who, like yourself, who don't need to to go into that field because of some sort of, immigration strategy. Like, you're just drawn to it. I think it's really, the park across the street from my house is just all Filipinos playing basketball in the summer all the time. Feel great.
Yes, and we're kind of the black people of Asia, and so we're very good at basketball.
Why is that? Black people of Asia. Explain that.
I don't know why, and I feel like the better person to talk about it would be Big Norm, the comic, because he has a lot of thoughts on it. I don't know why. I know when I was young growing up here, I grew up in the Seventh-day Adventist community, so it's a lot of black kids that I grew up with, and then a few white kids. But like, I always ask my mom, like, am I more black or am I more white? And I just feel like in North America, we definitely gravitated towards black people.
Okay.
I feel so different from white people, more so. With a lot of, cultures that you would consider like, like Jamaicans, it's the same. There's more commonalities. It's like culture around food, loud family.
Well, would you say that there's this, because I know that the Philippines is very, unlike a lot of Asian countries, is very Catholic. Mm-hmm. And so in that sense, and the Spanish influence is way more prevalent, right? So in some ways, with the Catholicism, the Spanishness, you've got like this connection to like South America and the Caribbean in a sense. That's true. I don't know if you would agree with this, but I would say, like, how I said that, I connected more with like the black kids in my class. I feel like you would have a Filipino person that would not think that at all, and that might relate more to the Chinese people in their class. So Filipinos are one of those colonized countries where we all look super different. My dad looks Mexican. My mom looks Chinese. Okay.
And they act more like, if somebody were to guess, people think my dad is Mexican.
Okay.
And so I kind of look mixed too. I just feel like maybe I don't know if the word is malleable, but you know what I mean? We kind of just shift.
Yes.
And then we latch on to what we latch on to.
Mm-hmm.
But North York is very Filipino. Like, I'm sure that you have a lot of Filipino people around here.
Oh, yeah, big time. Although I would say, I mean,
some of them are nannies, but.
Yeah, I mean, North York is very Korean.
That's true. A lot of Korean churches here.
Yeah, a lot of Koreans, a lot of people from the Philippines. Although I find that they live more westward. Mm-hmm. And then if it's anything but white, that's for sure. Except for like some of the the older neighborhoods, but even still, I feel like a lot of those neighborhoods are just,
yes,
like, it's like the old white
fucking
people are
white yuppies like you fucking move in.
Oh, how dare you! I just squeaked in.
People are like walking by being like, is that grilled cheese I smell? That's disgusting.
That's how you knew which house was mine?
Yeah, I'm like, yeah.
It's the smell of melting Kraft singles.
Yeah. I'm married to a white man, and your food, disgusting.
Oh, wow. I had no idea this would be so racist on your part.
It's allowed. Okay, so Filipinos are known for getting gout because of our diets. Heavy on meat. We have the lechon, that big full pig.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, when my husband met me, he was like, why are there 5 meat entrees at every meal? And I'm like, those are signs. Like, anyway, this holiday season, he actually got gout, which is insane because he can't handle all the meat. All the fat.
Yeah, wow. He's not even a real man.
Yeah. Keep that.
Did you, when you met your white husband, did you have an initial period of trying to figure out whether he liked you for you or just because you were Asian?
I knew he liked me because he said he hadn't really dated any Asians. So I was like, oh, and then that offended me. Just as he could have called me exotic, I would have been offended.
Yes.
But here's the kicker, and very relevant to this podcast. The reason I knew my husband was the one is we met, we started partying. We're partiers.
Yes.
Not as much anymore, but we still kind of party. But we had like a whirlwind fun, only supposed to be a few dates kind of connection. And then I told him, it was around Christmas, and I randomly said, like, not that you'll ever meet my parents, but if you did, you would probably think they were weird because they don't really drink. And so at Christmas, like, for a long time, my brother and I and my dad would sneak in a little bit. We would be hiding our booze or drinking it in a mug. And then he was like, yeah, I grew up Mennonite. And so my parents don't really drink either, even though they do.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, literally I clocked it. I was like, oh, I'm going to marry this person because he's going to have an understanding of the weirdness of my family because of the religious upbringing that I have no connection to now.
Yeah, I do want to talk about that. I just don't know which avenue that you've given me to go down first.
Should I describe maybe
Well, yeah, let's just do that. So you said you grew up Seventh-day Adventist.
Seventh-day.
What is that? Because I have met very few, and I know I'll say what I know.
Okay.
Which is that they do. It's almost like it's a Christian church, but it's almost like some of the stuff that Christians do they don't do. So you do church on Saturday instead of Sunday, and like are you kosher?
So on Wikipedia, I actually reviewed what it is because I totally sometimes forget because I'm so far away from it. But so it's kosher friendly. So for example, we often are very compatible, with people that keep kind of kosher because we don't eat. So meat is frowned upon.
In general.
Yeah, like vegetarianism, they have a big health message.
Yeah.
So it's not for the same reasons, but they also take the Bible a little more literally than like a Catholic. So somewhere in the Bible it says, again, like Old Testament, it's like shellfish are wrong. So like I shuck oysters as a side hustle. Yeah, oysters are out. Shellfish, scavengers of the earth, anything with a hoof is out.
Yeah, okay.
Pig is out. And so it's a lot more compatible with a kosher, but it's not kosher. There's no dairy and meat separation. But
gotcha.
It's like you're a better Seventh Day if you're vegetarian.
Okay.
And then there's this weird, it was the first, one of the founders of the religion was one of the first people to identify salt as bad.
Okay.
Some people also don't do stimulants. So you definitely, if you're a drinker, you would never talk about it if you were practicing Seventh Day. I think there's a lot of ones that do, but it's not something where you're like, oh, I'm fucking hungover at church.
Yeah.
Like you would hide it. So alcohol is forbidden. Smoking is forbidden.
Yes.
Weed is forbidden. Definitely cocaine. But...
I like that.
But Coke's okay.
That's in the mix.
Coke is all right. But some people go as far as like ginger is forbidden because ginger has a stimulant.
Oh,
caffeine
so very
is forbidden.
To use a very legalistic in a
very
much about rule following.
Yes.
Because in the evangelical world, like again, I don't know how much about Christianity you know. What we would call like mainstream Christianity is the Orthodox Church, the Catholic Church, and the Protestant Church. And then we're the ones that, though different, kind of tolerate each other and would call each other, part of mainstream Christianity.
Right.
Then off to the side, we would put Seventh-day Adventists, Latter-day Saints / Mormons, and Jehovah's Witnesses.
Seventh Day being a little bit more compatible with
Correct.
the real world, but it rides that line.
Yes, very much so. But the other thing about Seventh-day Adventists I remember is that Seventh-day Adventists had some sort of, was it a female founder who like made a lot of prophecies?
Yes.
That were...
By the way, she did fall and like hit her head on a rock. So sometimes so I think that they were hallucinations, but like my mom hates it when I say this, but I'm like, your religion was founded on a white woman's fucking wet dream. Like she had a fucking dream, and now you take it literally was based on this woman's premonitions, which could have been a brain injury.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that you say that because there are some people who theorize that Muhammad had seizures. Right? So,
I didn't know that, but that's compatibility. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Religion.
Yeah, there you go. But a lot of those prophecies that this woman made were kind of date bound, and so they expired.
Yes.
A lot of them, right? And so now it's almost like Seventh-day Adventists have become like more of like a mainline church.
You did your freaking research, first of all. Wow. Okay, yes. So there's one incident, and forgive me if I get the name wrong, but I think it was called the Great Disappointment. And so the world was going to end. People sold their shit. People like left their stuff, gave it all away, and then the world didn't end. But so
Latter-day Saints have like an event in their church that they call the Great Disappointment.
Okay.
Because a whole sorry, I've never heard of this, but I'm just recapping what you said. Yeah. And then a whole bunch of because these prophecies didn't come true. Mm-hmm. And so now people are like, well, what do we do now? Really?
And it might be called something slightly different, but it's on the same lines, Seventh-day Adventists to do that. So now, like if there was like, when I was growing up, if there was like loud thunder, my mom would be like, Jesus is friggin' thunder. Like they're still waiting for the end of times. Very, very focused on the second coming of Christ. Mm-hmm. Christ coming into the clouds. They don't believe in like a rapture, like you're either going to hell or not. And fire and brimstone.
So not like the Left Behind version.
No, you're gonna burn in hell.
Gotcha.
And I don't think that every Seventh-day Adventist believes that. A lot of I think my parents probably believe in a kind of version of like you just die. But growing up, you go in the evening, you watch movies about how you're going to burn in hell if you get finger fucked.
I have my friend, my cousin Michael. When we were in high school, we went on like a camping trip, and he brought this buddy with him, and the guy I can't remember how it came up, but he like casually said that we were going to hell. I was like, what the fuck is this? And Michael's like, oh, he's Seventh-day Adventist, so like he's really cool guy, but like every 4 months or so he tells me I'm going to hell.
Do you know what's so nice about your cousin is that he stayed friends with that person?
Well, yeah, I guess they were in school. Yeah, I'm not sure how that lasted long term, but
I would just even as a Seventh-day, I'd be like, this person isn't cool. So very much fear based. Mm-hmm. Very much like it's like the idea of fear making you into a good person because of the consequences. And my mom grew up Seventh-day from birth.
Okay.
She's never known anything else, and there's nothing I'm going to be able to do to change it.
Yeah.
She's pacified. She has a glass of wine. She watches CNN on Saturday, but she still goes to church. Mm-hmm. My dad grew up half Catholic, half Seventh-day, went to church both days. Sucks to be him.
Whoa, that's like my wife grew up that way.
Yes.
Evangelicalism, just a Sunday church was an all-day event.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing about my dad is I really think that he's the type of person that can be in a religion and still be like, half this shit's garbage.
Yeah, yeah.
And all the books he reads are like all about how, like he gave me the book like Homo Deus. It talks a lot about how religion just ruins things for people. He nonstop reads about science versus religion, but he has a deep belief in a higher power. Mm-hmm. He calls it Jesus, but I think he's not positive. But he goes to church and he's just like, this sucks, this sucks. He used to take me to the store, forbidden to shop or get gas on Sabbath.
Yeah.
And just tell me and my girlfriend and just say, we're just doing this so you know that you don't have to believe in everything. And he'd let me go buy candy and then take me back to church. So I grew up with somebody that was like, but then now my dad really wants me to be religious, indoctrinates my daughter because I think that he does deep down worry that if there is a hell, I'm going. But he's a little bit more nuanced about it. So it's not a part of my life, but every other day my mom slips a devotional in my purse and I have to throw it out.
How did you, so you grew up in it. So how did you feel about it, at least when you were young at the beginning?
Yeah. So from when I was born to when I was about 21, I would say since I was born until I was 17, 18, that was who I was.
Okay. You embraced it.
I embraced it. I believed in it. I remember asking if I could get rebaptized, and then the pastor was like, if you do that, people are going to think you did something.
Okay.
But I'll do it anyway. So I rededicated my life to God, and I went to a Seventh-day Adventist school. That's what I think makes it one of those religions, because you are a better Seventh-day Adventist if you really shield yourself from the outside world. Mm-hmm. It's a big reason why a lot of Seventh-day Adventists do end up in healthcare. There's a loophole. If you work in healthcare, you can work on Sabbath. If you work at Tim Hortons, people are going to think you're fucked because you're not Jewish, but you need Saturday off.
Who would? What? Sabbath is Saturday.
Yes, so Friday night to Saturday.
People want to work on Saturday?
I think, like, for somebody like me, like, I wouldn't have wanted to deal with explaining that I'm weird.
Oh, yeah.
So then you work at a university that's seventh day. You're a piano teacher for seventh day. So it's very insular. So I grew up in the church. I got kicked out of the private school once in grade 6 for abusing my teacher. Anyway,
verbally,
I saw the outside world. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Went back until high school, left again. In university, went back and forth. Like, I remember telling my boyfriend that I was already fucking, that, like, we have to stop having sex because I'm rededicating myself to virginity.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe he could. And I even said once, we have to only listen to the jazz station because I don't want to listen to fornicating lyrics at like 1920. And then as I got older, it slowly just chipped away of like, this isn't real. Like, this isn't real for me. Like, the more I found out about the outside world, I worked at Aritzia. I started working on Saturday. I remember my mom caught me. She just stood she came to Yorkdale and she just looked at me and said, it's the Sabbath. And I was like, I think I'm just fucking done with it. And then now I just couldn't be more far away.
Yeah. What were the things that gave you pause about it? Was it something about it, like, doctrinally, about like what they were saying spiritually, or was it about the practices of it?
Because I think there's so many levels, and I think that there's some, like, I like the way my parents for the most part do. Like, they still try to mission to me because I'm their kid, but they leave people the fuck alone. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's not necessarily the religion, but it is the fear that I had growing up and the way that it continues to fuck me up. My husband and I are very similar in that we're still rebelling against the religion that made us feel a certain type of way that we couldn't put our finger on when we were 13.
Yeah.
Like, he was fucking masturbating like crazy and just feeling so bad about it.
Yeah.
And I had no relationship with alcohol or partying, for example. And then so now, like, if I overindulge and get hammered, which happens, I actually realize, like, it's actually 13-year-old me being like, I feel so oppressed. I feel so much shame.
Do you feel like you're trying to do the stuff that you weren't able to do? Yeah, still. Yeah.
Still. Yeah. So I feel like it's for my husband and me in our house. Yeah. My parents have that thing of like, for me in my house, we serve the Lord. And I'm like, for me in my house, my daughter will never feel the shame that we both felt and still feel.
Yeah. Would your husband also describe himself as an atheist?
So my husband is one of those atheists. Like, he is like he told my daughter, like, Jesus isn't real. And then now that's caused this whole confusion because then she goes to my parents' place and they say the opposite. Whereas for me, I'm like, we don't believe in that here.
Yeah.
But other people do, where he's like, it's not real, it's fake.
Yeah.
So he's even more, I think, affected by it.
Yeah, like aggressively atheist.
Like, I don't think he's ever told his parents that he is an atheist, though. So then it's also, I think I'm less extreme because I tell my parents, like, fuck off. And they're like, you have to believe. And I'm like, I don't fucking believe in it. And then we have that, whereas he's still, I think, hiding from his family.
Yeah.
He won't say it out loud, even though they know. Like, we didn't have prayer at our wedding, which is a big thing.
Yeah.
But they're Mennonites, so they're more passive. They don't talk about things. So.
Mennonite brethren. Is he from like the Hamilton area? Is he Dutch?
Winnipeg.
Okay.
Which is like Mennonite.
Okay,
like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're from Winkler, which is like a Mennonite town. Like, it's just all Mennonites. They don't really, his family doesn't have anyone that dresses, but he does have a lot of family that are still Mennonite. Like, they were, like anti-vax for religious reasons. Yeah. I have a lot of people I know are anti-vax, by the way. I'm not, but it was for religious reasons, which made it feel different.
Mm-hmm. So you went to school for healthcare?
No, I went to school for other things, and then, but my mom wanted me to be a nurse because she's Filipino.
Yes.
Joe Coy. And I ended up, and so she got me into this personal support worker program when I wasn't even old enough to do it. And then I ended up just doing it part-time while I went to school for other things. And then I just ended up realizing, like, I really loved working with seniors, so then I ended up working in management.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it that you liked about working with seniors?
I think it was that I was a 10 out of 10 at work. Like, Yeah, I loved it. I love the people. It's
No, let's go back to that one. Like the old dudes liked you.
well, because I had like another. So when I was at university, I had a job at Aritzia and I had a job at the retirement community. And let me tell you, I felt a lot hotter at the retirement community. I think it was also like falling in love with the people that I worked with. So in Oshawa, back in the day, it's not all Filipino people.
Mm-hmm.
It's white people that grew up differently than me. Maybe there was one friend that I have, still friends with her. Brandy, got secret pregnant when she was 15.
Brandy sounds like someone who got secret pregnant at
Yes,
15.
shout out Brandy. And she was a PSW. So I ended up working in this community when I was kind of at that coming of age and loving and falling in love with people that I would never have had anything in common with.
Yeah.
So I think that was it. And then honestly, people that take care of seniors are better people than you. Like it is so hard, but if you can do it, it brings you a lot of pride. So it was very fulfilling.
Yeah, I have a joke that I'm working on about how when I was a kid I didn't like hockey. It's like why would I do this thing where I can get punched repeatedly and nobody's gonna call the police? Like what is this?
Yes, and I did get punched.
Yeah, what is this, an old folks home?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, the things that I saw there, but I still have dreams that I still do it, and sometimes I'm tempted to just like do it just to see if I still got it. I do. I give a great bath.
Do people have like, you have any like famous last words from people or like things that seniors told you about life that you still remember?
I remember a woman who her son was the walk-in clinic doctor. I remember going to see him sometimes and being like, I have a UTI because I had sex. Don't tell your mom, Yolanda. But she would catch me on midnight shift and I would go to change her and she would open her eyes and she'd always be like, you just shouldn't be here. Like you're hot and young and you should be out with people. But I remember there was a guy who used to be a priest, and I won't name him because it's kind of an intense story. He kind of looked like Elmer Fudd, so cute.
Yeah.
Used to be a priest before he retired, and the shit that would come out of his mouth. Like he would open his eyes and be like, you look like you were just fucked by 17 men. You look like a whore.
Whoa.
And then every time I'd wipe his butt, he'd be like, mother. Yeah. And then one time he like ate his hand or tried to eat his hand. Such a cute guy. But like you're wondering, okay, what's the story? One guy tried to pee on my face when I put on his socks after a shower. Mm-hmm. And I like dodged it. So many stories. But then like amazingly beautiful people. Like some of these seniors are just people that I always will remember, like great relationships. Somebody at my last job, I was in management at the time, but during COVID, and these two best friends moved in and they were born the same year. They were both 95.
Okay.
They moved into identical units in the same month, one on top of the other. And then one day, one of them, I went to go deliver. Like they weren't allowed to leave their rooms during COVID. So I was helping delivering because nothing else to do. And she was like, I'm just not going to make it through this. Like, I'm going to die. And I'm like, you're not going to die. She's like, yeah, I'm going to die. Died 2 days later. Best friend.
She made it sound like a choice. Like, you know what? I think I'm done.
This is done. But I think she wanted to be done.
Yeah.
Her best friend, again, best friend since they were like 4 years old. They're 95. Best friend dies 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
Just like so crazy. And then like that ruined me because I was really close to them. Yeah. And so there's a lot of like jokes, but it's also like, wow, you just see it all. And then I'm superior to you because of it. No.
Well, there seems to be this thing where with old people where like they're going, they think and then something will happen and they're just done.
And I think that's the best way. The worst is when they linger.
Mm-hmm.
And when, your advanced Alzheimer's and your body is like not even, I believe in assisted death because of it. There's also this dynamic of like within these communities, long-term care or retirement, there's often a category of people where there's nowhere for them to go. Mm-hmm. So they're young. I took care of a guy that was a scientist in his 50s. He got ALS. Okay. Brilliant mind. ALS is so ugly. And then it's just like that person, it's like, oh my God, like I can't believe that this person is here. I once had a teenager live in a long-term care facility because her father was a Muslim widower who, as soon as she got her period, was like, I don't know what the fuck to do with her. And the only place for her to go in Ontario was a nursing home.
But she was like in her teens?
She was in her teens, but I should have mentioned. She had a disability of some sort.
Okay.
Like a mental disability.
But nothing so severe that you would think it would justify that.
No, and she didn't
Yeah.
get a private room, so her roommate was fucking 98.
Wild.
It's wild. Ontario, by the way, sucks when it comes to seniors. If you want to have a better life for your family, move them to Alberta.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I might just do the midsummer thing, and when I get to 76, I'll just jump off a cliff. I think that's...
Or move to the Philippines, hire a caregiver.
Yeah? That sounds good.
My parents won't do it, and I think that they would be better too. I mean, they're okay financially, but you know, it costs like minimum $5,000 a month to move into a retirement community. That doesn't include your care.
Really?
Just so you guys know. And that's cheap compared to some in the States, but yeah.
When did you like...
I'm sorry for distracting you. Literally, Jay's like, I'm going to kill myself.
No. It's more I'm thinking about where to take it. Like I want to go back to, so you ditch on Seventh-day Adventist. Did you instantly become like an atheist, or did you think like hold on to the God part but ditch the church part? So
yeah,
but then
spiritual but not religious.
Yeah, so what led you to like ditch the God part?
It happened very gradually. I think the big trigger for me was I grew up with somebody that was openly gay in high school and got his ass beat.
Yeah, okay.
My parents always loved him, still do, but their perspective at that time was like they felt sorry for him.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm not going to be able to be a part of something that does this to a group of people that are good. He's a good person, that just like demonizes them. So that was kind of the thing that stuck with me. And then over time, I just slowly shed it. So I'd say it went from being spiritual, not religious, to being like, you know what? If I get rid of the fear of going to hell, I really don't believe in it.
Yeah.
And I just think I'm like a kind person, and I feel like kinder than a lot of people that are devoted to religion. And that's really the realization. That like a lot of religious people are amazing, good people, but there's so many that are fucking the worst.
Yeah.
And they just use the religion to justify it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like better than you because I don't do nice things because I think there's a reward.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's so many people who I talk to who end up leaving whatever the faith system is. Like 99% of the time, it's not because they object to it like philosophically. It's because somebody wronged them, or they've been wronged like systemically for a long time.
What did you? Because you guys are not religious anymore. Or are you?
It's tough. Like my, how do I break it down? Well, I'll start from the beginning. So I was raised not religious, not at all.
Wow, what's that like? Wow. Probably rock and roll.
No, not really. I mean, because it's not like my parents were great. It wasn't like we're atheists and you get to go to Disneyland every year, right? Like there was, I woke to this world in chaos. Like my parents my only memories are of them fighting. Okay. Like they got divorced when I was 7. And like it wasn't a surprise. Like I was like those few kids when they're like, "It's not your fault." I'm like, "Yeah, I know."
Yeah. Hello, like newsflash.
Yeah, that was like, why would I think it was my fault, right? Like I didn't run up the credit cards, like right. So yeah, it's not like I benefited from growing up in an atheist, and it definitely like my grandmother would take us to like Catholic church, and I thought it was super boring. And then when I was 17, I did 10 grams of magic mushrooms, and then that got me like turned on to God. And then that like totally changed.
For how long? Until today?
I was like hardcore evangelical like right up until the pandemic. Like just before I started doing comedy.
Jay!
Yeah.
That is insane.
I was like a Christian like praise and worship guitar player. Like I've played guitar in front of like 2,000 people, like done like huge events and stuff like that. Went to Bible college, dropped out.
To be honest, Creed isn't a bad band.
They're not really. I don't even think they're a Christian band. I mean, there are some great Christian bands, but I mean, the ones that I liked. Well, see, this is the thing. Do you are you into heavy music at all?
Like what?
Like metalcore? Do you remember like Under Oath or
no, I don't.
As They Lay Dying? Like in the
I do know that. Yeah.
Okay. So like in the 2000s. There was this whole thing about like the metalcore thing, right? Like after nu metal, which was like Korn, Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park, the next heavy metal thing was metalcore, and a lot of the bands that came out of that were Christian.
Interesting.
like the heaviest bands. And so, but then it's like being a Christian, I feel like means just getting let down. because like the band who was top of the heap for all of them was this band called As I Lay Dying. They were my favorite band. And you would hear how like their lead singer, this guy named Tim Lambesis, was like, he had like a master's in philosophy. He would like debate other people on tour, where like people who weren't Christian would be on tour and be like, that guy knows his shit. Like, even if he didn't like turn them into believers, they were like, this guy, like, he's not an uneducated Christian.
Yes.
And then
he would be big on TikTok today.
And and then in 2013, he got arrested for attempting to hire a hitman to kill his wife.
Love it. Is there a movie about this?
I'm sure
Can
there
I
will.
watch it tonight?
I'm sure that there will be.
There's got to be a YouTube video at least.
Oh well, he's done like interviews and stuff. He's out of jail now.
Okay. That's what I'm doing tonight.
Going to jail?
Taking down the Christmas tree and watching shit on this guy.
Yeah, we took the Christmas tree down. But yeah, like it was like the whole Christian metalcore thing like exploded because like a lot of the bands weren't actually Christian, because they were like double dipping it, because it was such a big movement that like if you were a Christian metalcore band, you could sell records in both the Christian market and the non-Christian
like
market.
Hillsong.
Yes.
They sell so many records.
Yeah, so like
those people are desperate for records that they can feel good about. That they can feel like it's okay for them to have it.
Well, if you do Christian worship, like a Hillsong or an Elevation or something like that, you're making extra money, because not only are you making money on the record sales, you're making money every single Sunday when the millions of churches in North America play your songs, and you get a cut of that through CCLI.
Did you watch Hillsong?
The documentary? No, I haven't. I know. I've seen new stuff over.
It's really good.
Yeah, I kind of just. Well, going back to me, so I grew up. Yeah, so I was religious. Like I was super religious. Went to Bible college. Like would have debated you that the Earth was 10,000 years old. Like I was like that hardcore.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
And then, and then I think the first kind of like wedge came in. I listened to this podcast called the Bad Christian Podcast. And it was this podcast with these guys who were in this band called Emery, which is like a Christian metalcore band. And
I think I've heard of that.
Really? And they talked to this guy named Chris Date, who runs this blog called Rethinking Hell. And it's this idea that like the Bible actually doesn't teach the traditional hell view, the you'll burn in hell.
Yes.
Right? Like he says, like if you look at all of the passages that talk about hell or the fate of those who don't believe in Jesus, it's always something about like death, destruction, finality. Like John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whoever shall believe in him shall not
perish, but have everlasting life.
So how do you get?
I cast all my cares. Yes.
So how do you get tortured forever from perish?
Yes, you're correct. And I mean,
right? And so he's just like, if you look at all the verses, there's nothing about like forever. And it's almost like if you don't believe, then your afterlife is just nothing. Hell is like the mechanism by which you cease to exist. Like if you don't want to be with God in heaven, he's not going to make you, but he's not going to torture you forever either. You're just going to be gone.
Yeah.
And that was so radically different, but I was so conservative that it was still biblically, like it sounded biblical enough, but rational enough for me to be like, wow, I don't think the traditional view is true. And then it was like, well, if that's not true, then what else isn't true? And that kind of just led me to this.
Everything kind of falls.
And then it all kind of falls where I'm just kind of left in this place where it's just like, I definitely believe in God. I definitely believe, I believe that Jesus was a real person. Like historically
he was a real person.
He was a historical
Even I know
figure.
that.
Yeah.
Even I believe that.
Well, I mean, there's some people like on your husband's team who go as far as saying, no, he never even existed even historically, which I think like most people in academics, like they don't take that view seriously.
No.
Right?
I mean, there's evidence that somebody named Jesus existed.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like and then it's like the formalization of it as the Christian church. And like, I don't know if we're doing church right. Like that's kind of the thing.
Oh my God,
right?
do evangelists give 15% of their tithes and offerings of their earnings? Yeah, my parents, I think my parents give 15 because my parents have been doing it for 72 years. And when we were poor, they did it. And that fucking bothers me.
Yeah.
Like when we were poor, we used to have to give my $2. I gave 15% because my brother gave his $10. He's older. And I remember just resenting them, being like, I can't believe I have to give them this money.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing that bothers me.
I mean, but you gave
That's
it. Well, you gave it thinking that this is going to go. That like we're giving this to the church as the mechanism to help people in our community.
But I don't have as much of a problem with missionary. Like some people in my family get so, on my husband's side, his sister gets so upset about how wrong missionaries are, and even I do have feelings about it. But I do feel like a lot of the money that we would give would be used to help people overseas, which seems okay. But I do think it was under the guise of like, okay, you help them, now they're going to be a part of your mission, a part of being, you go to the Philippines, you mission.
Yeah.
But then there's a little bit of a manipulation there because you've helped them, taught them English, and then now indoctrinated them into your religion. So that bothers me about the tithes and offerings because a lot of it goes to that. And also, I don't know if anyone's ever followed, I think it's called Preacher Sneakers on Instagram.
Preachers and sneakers, yeah.
I freaking love that.
Yeah,
I've met a preacher that was like that person, like wouldn't
Yeah.
even hold a friggin' door open for me, but like nice friggin' sneakers, dude. But again, that depends on the church.
Well, I mean, and that's just the thing, though. It's like you give all this money and then you find out that a lot of it just went to covering staff, right? And then, yeah, it's tough because, like, do I think a pastor should be poor? I don't like, should they not be making like a lot? I don't know. I don't know what the.
No, but I think that they shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be of the wealthiest in the church either. Like,
Yeah.
there's just something that bothers us all the wrong, like,
Yes.
bothers us about it.
Yeah,
Right?
I think that Seventh Days actually, for the most part, at least here in Canada, I've noticed the pastors are very humble type people. I like that they allow their clergy to marry
Yes.
and divorce as well. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like if the institution of religion didn't make kids feel so scared and ashamed and feel like there's one way or the highway, I feel like I wouldn't be so turned off by it. So unlike my husband, I see value in it. I mean, my mom has a community.
Yeah.
My dad has a community. Even though he questions, he's a deacon.
Yeah.
He's helping. And I think that my growing up in a religious community, and you've met me, you know what I'm like. I'm very much somebody that leans into community, and I think it's partly because of my experience growing up in the church. So there's also definitely positives.
Well, almost every person I've talked to says that they miss the community the most.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
the thing that they miss, because like even like you could say that like comedy is a community, but and it's like it's also a competition. I know that we're not in competition, but like you're in competition for spots. You're in competition for opportunities, right? So it's not totally we're just friends.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, absolutely.
The base of it is self-serving, whereas like in a church community, it's we serve each other. We're a family. We try to help out the people in our community that like don't have.
Yeah.
Right. So
what happens in your house today?
When you
religious-wise?
So like we go on Sunday, not all the time, but we're just not like heavy-handed about it. Right. Like
I didn't know, except for the beginning of your podcast, any of this. So you're cool.
Yeah.
You'd get along with my husband. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, you know what? It's I was honestly, I used to work in restaurants and stuff like that. And I feel like the world has almost changed a bit when it comes to religion, because I feel like if you had asked me in like 2010, it was kind of something I would be scared to say that I was Christian, because people would be like, oh, what? So you're like a fucking idiot who you hate gay people. I feel like people used to be a lot more aggressive about it. Like you could see their backs up as soon as you said it. And now I feel like people are a little bit more open to it. I feel like the world is a little bit, I don't know.
I think you're right, and it is weird because you think it would be the opposite, because the world is secularizing. But
yeah.
I think that it is almost like so let me just say, I think that that's true in Canada. I will say, because I do a lot of work. I travel to the States a lot, and in like a corporate conference setting, I've gotten used to people being like, Jesus, take the wheel. And I'm like, okay, this is a corporate conference. This makes me feel very uncomfortable. I'm atheist, agnostic-ish. People around could be Muslim, they could be, and then it really bothers me. And I feel like in the States, especially certain states, they're very open about religion. Here, not so much, but I am finding that even on my Instagram, I'm finding out that my friends go to mega churches that I didn't even know they were religious. So there is this weird people being more open about it, and also people being more accepting of it. I'm talking out loud just because I don't think I really had put that into words before, and it's very true, but kind of weird.
Well, it's almost like there's this meme. I don't know if you've seen it, where it's like it's almost like the left. I don't say it in like a demonizing way, but like the woke people are almost the extension of the original like new atheist movement. It's kind of like what has like I feel like the new atheist movement birthed it in a sense. And now, back in the day, like atheists and Christians used to be united in like logic and reason, and they would fight over. And so now it's like atheists and Christians are almost now on like the same team.
Yeah.
Right? Like in the sense of like we both think there are two genders, like the hardcore atheists or the science people, like that makes us, they're almost bonded now in a sense, right? Whereas before they were enemies, but now they have more common ground because the world has changed so much.
I do think that there's a level of, and I consider myself very left, but there's a level of wokeness that does feel Bible belty.
Right? It is a little like culty, right? Like it's almost.
Well, and it's you're with us or you're not, and it's really like angry and shaming. Like I'm gonna slap you if you're not being verbal about this. I think it's just, you know what it is. Well, like Jay? It's righteousness.
Yes,
that's the word.
Yeah, well, and you're like on the woke team, it's like you're righteous for being on the team, right? Like when a gay man can like kick the phone out of a pro-life woman's hands and think that he's the good guy.
Yeah, and free speech being, you know, not a one-sided. By the way, I'm very much a free speech person, but I struggle because I am very, very left, but I think because there's feelings of it being almost culty, and also like I said, all the reasons why I left my religion was, you know, this way or the highway. It's the righteousness and the shame that comes out of maybe not aligning with a lot of people in my life. It really is not for me to be that extreme. Also, I'm not going to call out my family at Thanksgiving when my aunt is in her 60s and was born in this religion and doesn't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah.
She literally didn't stay at my wedding because there was drinking. What the fuck am I going to educate her on?
Yeah.
You know, that's where I draw the line. Like, it's not like, just like my husband doesn't bring up that he's an atheist to his family, even though I think they've figured it out.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to hurt anybody.
And who wants to fight?
Yeah. Can we just say again, it is, I think that what I was getting at and where we agree a lot is it's the righteousness of it all.
Well, yeah, the idea of, I think you're absolutely right. It's this idea that like, because I think I spent a lot of my 20s being like, this is the truth.
Yeah.
I know everything. I will debate this till the nth degree, right? Like, because I'm on the right team, even if I don't know the answer, somebody on my team does. Like, you could have never changed my mind. That never would have happened. And it's almost like as you grow older, you realize how much you don't know and how much you realize that the people around you don't know anything
and
either,
also
right?
You're probably not going to fucking change anyone's mind. One of the things I know I compare this is probably very similar to people when they leave a religion is I used to be pre-Trump like the type of person that my blood would actually boil when I would see something that I didn't agree with. It my face would get red, I'd want to cry. And then my husband being like, he used to be way more left than me, now he's a little more center than me. But he had that rude awakening where he was like, I think I'm part of a bubble and I'm scared. And he started to look into things and started to change, and it fucking scared me.
Yeah.
But then now, like, I kind of appreciate that he did that. It shows that you can change your mind, that you can shift. And it's always when you look internal, you're not looking out to like point fingers at people. You're actually thinking about where you're at. Why do I feel this way?
Yes. Well, it's very much like when I had my good friend Ben was like one of my early guests, and he was saying like being able to, and he grew up a pastor's son.
Oh, those guys, that's a struggle.
And he was like,
that's a struggle.
And he was like, you know, realizing that I am not my ideas.
Yes.
Right? Just because I think this doesn't mean that it's true. It could be false. And just because it, like, if I believe this, it's not who I am. And I thought that was really, because the other day, I'm going to write a bit about this.
Yes.
But the early things is a friend of mine just told me that he and his wife are swingers.
Wow.
And I was like,
he wanting you to join?
I really doubt that I'm on the menu for
Oh,
swingers.
for sure you are. Absolutely.
Really? I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I had a friend that was a swinger, and she and her ex were like a really hot couple, like two hot people.
Well, so this guy and his
she
wife
would fuck like fucking 60-year-old women.
Yeah, well, but
So
the
you're
thing,
great. You're young.
I think I'm good. But the thing was, when he told me this, I reacted like I felt like visceral. I felt like this is weird. This is wrong. And
God, I can see somebody coming out of the closet back in the day,
right?
Or
and
maybe
then,
today feeling that way.
But it's more but I think like now that I'm older, it's just like it made me think about, okay, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel so like strongly about it? And
it's a violation of maybe who you thought that person was, and it opens the door to some ideas maybe you don't want in your head.
Yeah, well, I mean, like there's like I don't want to reveal stuff about him because
No.
Right, but it's like it makes me think like it goes against what I think about women, because I definitely don't go around thinking like this is something that women gravitate towards. And like, and it must have like, did you have to coerce your wife to do this? Like,
I think that I know a lot of people where it does.
Yeah.
But I think that, hey, though, that being said, I think that it's a cultural shift. It's like meme culture. It's porn. I think you're right. I think that, I understand what you're saying.
Well, and again, I'm not saying the things that I'm feeling are right. This is the other thing though. It's like, I feel this way. I want to get to the bottom of why I feel this way. But it's also like it crossed my mind, like, is this something that people would want if there was no porn? Like, if porn didn't exist, would people want this constant variety all the time, or would you be happy with just one person?
Well, and as you're thinking about this, I want to say that that's like so positive that you're thinking about it. But isn't it funny that if he was coming out as something other than a swinger, even the questioning of it would be so frowned upon? But you have to be able to fucking think about it, talk out loud, and hopefully be open to landing somewhere else and being like, it's cool. Like,
yeah, well, it's more like it's not something that. Here's the thing. Part of the feelings was like, I think this will definitely be in the bit. Is just like, I was just overwhelmed with this feeling of feeling so cool. It's like, I actually know one of these weirdos.
Yeah, you know a lot of them in comedy. Trust me.
Oh, I know, right? Well, that was another thing. I can't remember who I was talking to. Like, I had no idea how like common drugs were. I'm
married to a DJ. They are.
It's like, and more than just like weed, right? Which is legal, but like how constant it is. But having grown up and stayed in like the church for so long, I'm very sheltered from a lot of it, right? So I think it's more like I feel this way. So now it's like, oh, well, like why? And then it gives me strands that I need to like think about.
Yes. One of the things that Seventh-day Adventists did, which is a sign that's good too, is just on the topic of drugs, is they often will release a statement that's like, okay, this is our stance. And often their stance changes, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because like weed is just not what it used to be. Coke is the new weed. Like, oh, it's frowned upon, but everyone's doing it. I just feel like, I think it's nice when a religion does shift, because it's probably a desperate attempt to stay relevant. But it also shows that you need to be able to change your mind.
Well, I think that, not perfect, but I do think that Christianity as a whole has been better able to adjust.
I agree.
I think that that's why it's endured for so long. In general.
Yeah. Some are worse than others.
Yeah. Like, if you want to lean in on specifics, I'm sure it's failed in a lot of ways. But overall, both Europe and North America and South America are all undergirded by Christianity. That is the basis of those societies, and they've endured this long. And I think that is because Christianity has this like science was started by Christians. So like,
by the way, shout out to the United, because they're the best ones in my opinion. They like totally embrace things that we were so behind on. That's just a plug. But
well, the evangelicals were like, the United are done. They believe in nothing
because they have the pride. They've had the pride flag up to since the 80s. But I think you might be right. But also, I think that there's so many different types of Christianity. I think one that has like a very bad name is Catholicism, because of all of the pedophilia. However, I do like the idea of being able to claim yourself as a religion when you're not totally ingrained in it. It's one of the things I love about the culture of Judaism. You could be just as much of a Jewish person as a cultural Jew as you are Orthodox. And I think like one of the things about Seventh-day Adventists that makes it feel culty is that you really need, if you want to be a true, there is a hierarchy. And if you want to be a true Seventh-day Adventist, you do not eat meat.
Yeah.
You do not have sex before you're married. You do not masturbate. You do not drink. And I just think it's not realistic. So I actually like the idea of half in, half out, and you're good, because then it becomes less of righteous and it becomes more of like you're a part of the world, and you're also being able to sustain this belief without having to isolate yourself within the religion.
Yeah. Well, I like, there's the passage in the Bible that says, everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial.
Yeah, what's that? I get that tattooed on myself.
Right? So it's basically the sense of like, Jesus forgives you for everything. Like like everything you ever did, you bad, you're forgiven for. But just because, and so should you keep on sinning?
Yeah, should
like,
you keep on murdering them?
Right. And then, well, by no means, because it's like, just because you're allowed, just because you're forgiven doesn't mean that it's good for you. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think it's like, it's good to be centered around these principles. It's almost like the Bible is like this standard that nobody can actually reach or attain, but like it exists at least conceptually for us as like a guiding North Star for us to try to get to.
I agree with the religion as providing a North Star. I compare it to AA. Like, if you're a part of AA, you live in it because maybe you probably are somebody that needs that. And I think that religion is a savior for a lot of people because it provides some limitation. I struggle with that. I'm like 40 and have my own life, and I still feel like I'm rebelling, which is stuck in me. But I used to work for somebody who was Muslim, and he like binge drank and fucking partied, but then, he wouldn't eat anything but halal meat. And then he said, I don't even do it for the religious part. It's just really good to give yourself some limitations in life. And I thought, okay, that's really smart.
Yes.
Because you do need limitations in life. So I do understand why some people really need religion and really are more predisposed to buy into it. I mean, if I had religion in my life, there would be parts of my life that would be easier. So I think that it can be a gift.
What do you think would be easier?
I think needing to like make choices that are just like good for me because of they're good for me. Like, I don't think I think that way.
Okay.
And so I just think that if I had like, this is what I live by. I'll give you an example. My husband, I mentioned earlier, got gout. And he was actually like relieved because he was like, okay, now we can't have steak every fucking day because I steal the steak. But come to my comedy show. I love to steal steak. But he's like, now, I can't have red meat every day. Beer is not something that I can drink. Awesome. At least that eliminates that instead of it being about like, oh, I want to be a certain weight.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to be able to walk. And so I feel like the limitations can be a blessing.
Yeah, I think we need them. I think humans, we need guardrails.
And religion, and I know that it's not out of disrespect for believers, but for people that are like my dad that are kind of like not really feeling it, but like still kind of are drawn to it, is also like, maybe I'm not disciplined enough to just make up these rules. Maybe I need to be a part of kind of this community to live by it. It's almost like a common peer pressure to stick to the rules.
Well, it's hard though, because like I was talking to a friend of mine about this who's still super conservative, but he was making the point where it's like his wife and my wife, like, they're Christians fairly easily because they seem like they just fit it. Does that make sense? Like, they don't have a natural inclination to misbehave.
Yeah, like he's not a DJ.
He's not. Yeah, he's not a DJ. Like, my wife doesn't like. She's not a partier. She's not a drinker.
Yeah.
She likes church. Like, she fits into it, and so it's, just because you're not wired that way, does that mean that church isn't for you? And I feel like the way that church is built now, it's like wired for, if you're this type of person, church is going to be great for you. And if you're not, you're always going to feel left out.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I were to leave, then it would make the other people who are like me feel like they couldn't be there either. Whereas, like, wouldn't it be better to change it from the inside out, where like the church could just
for
be
everybody?
Yeah, it could be messy and full of like weirdos.
Where you can be honest, for sure. And one of the things going back to Seventh Day, I often think about Sabbath when we actually used to keep it. Like, can't watch TV on Sabbath. And I think about like how people do like a phone detox once a week or once a month, or they do a Facebook. I mean, it's kind of a good thing to take a day of rest.
Or it's like
not that I do, but
Mormons have family home evening.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they have like it's not in the Book of Mormon or in the Bible, but it's like this thing that they've kind of implemented where it's like every week you family home evening, you're doing dinner together, everybody's home, playing games, like
that's so
intentional,
nice.
right? And it's like I wish we could all have that without needing to, believe that black people
Are fallen angels.
or fallen angels. All right. So
well, and like Seventh-day Adventists, they played a video about it to be like, oh, Mormons are racist.
Yeah. Okay. So see, Seventh Day are much closer to evangelicals because we watch those same videos.
Oh, and it's always like, oh, the Catholic Church is evil. The Pope is 666 is the Pope.
Oh, the Christian videos from the 80s are very special.
Like I feel like me and my husband are gonna watch them just to look back.
That would be a great YouTube channel, just to rewatch like old Christian indoctrination videos.
It's a new podcast.
Oh man,
you should do a special episode of this where people watch old videos of their old religion.
I know, right?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I was talking to Courtney Gilmore. She wanted to make like a comedy show of like religious people.
Remind me though, Courtney Gilmore's parents are still in the religion.
I don't want to speak for her, but
okay.
I think so.
Yeah. I love her story. There's so much there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I've been trying to get her on, but she's a very busy lady.
Yeah. She's amazing.
Yeah. One day. So it's just so you're just saying. So gradually, you just just kind of shed the God stuff, and then when did you get into comedy?
I got into comedy after a lifetime of just being that person that's always like waiting for people to say I'm funny.
Okay.
And my husband ended up buying me Second City, and then
nice.
I happened to be connected to the Piston. Before I was even done the classes, they gave me a venue, and honestly, that's why I still do it. I was lucky, because I was producing before anyone knew my name, and then everybody wanted spots, and then I still do it.
Yeah, I mean, well, I remember doing the Piston when we were like still
outside.
Outside because everything was like still locked down. I think it was like one of my in my first like 10 or 20 sets that I did.
And you were always great. You always came early. You always messaged before.
I'm very attentive to attention to detail.
Yeah, but it's because you have like kids and a real job, and I don't mean that comedy's not a real job, but it's like an outside job, and so you are like that. I really admire comics who from the very beginning that they start at open mics have that mentality of like, this is a thing where I need to show up and be okay with being rejected and be okay with being the outsider. I think that for me, my biggest problem with comedy is that I have so many other things going on that I often treat it like it's a time I'm out. I'm going out.
I mean, I kind of see it that way too. And believe me, like I'm on Instagram and I'm like always feeling FOMO where like everybody's hanging out and I'm not there.
And you're like, oh, and I'm like, I shouldn't be looking at this. I'm putting my daughter to bed.
Yeah. Like but at the same time, like I wouldn't not have my kids just so I could drink beer with comics.
Yeah, I also think I wouldn't have been a very funny comic if I didn't wait until I had something to talk about. I'm not a great writer. Some of these comics like that are young, that started young, I'm just like, wow, I think I just would have been talking, those classic kind of girl jokes of like, I fucked a guy. Like now I like can talk about my marriage, about my job, as my parents. So yeah, it's all different kinds, but so it's been 4 years for you?
No, I'm not. It'll be 3 in June.
Yeah, it's hard with the pandemic because it feels like 8 years and then 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, well, I started May 2021, so just like at the end of the lockdowns and stuff, that's when I got into it. But I started in backyards and outside.
How does your wife feel about comedy?
Mixed.
Yeah.
I think she knows it's the thing for me. Like I dabbled in music and I dabbled in painting and stuff like that.
Painting? Are these yours?
No. I was never great. It was all I did like abstract painting. I really like abstract painting.
I think it's admirable that you have all of these things. There's people that go through life and they don't have any of that. They just live their life day to day.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to shed music because I thought music was the thing forever. Mm-hmm. But then I realized that I wasn't passionate about it. Like I was always funny.
Yes.
But I was always kind of afraid,
of course,
to do it because like when being funny is part of your identity, it's not something you want to fail at.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is like I never feel less funny than when I'm around comedians because we're all funny.
Yes.
And then you automatically have this hierarchy. I know my husband has pointed out that comedy is great and I should never give up. He's very supportive. He's the one that got me into it. But he also says, like, God, it just really brings out the worst in you. The way that you feel about yourself, the way that, like, that's always the environment when I'm at Comedy Bar late at night and I'm like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm having way too many drinks. And he's like, you just need to figure out how to feel better. I'm better at it now. I used to bomb and like cry and now I'm a little numb to it. But it's tough.
I mean, the way that I always describe it is like the highs are the highest and the lows are the lowest.
And that's why people like you and me end up in there. Because I think that, like, I'm in sales.
Oh, yeah.
Tech sales is like, why the fuck do I do this? And then it's like, I get one email back and I'm like, yeah, it's awesome. And it's like, I realize that I wish I was somebody that could really live at a number 5 out of 10 because 5 is the place to be.
Yeah. I mean,
10 blows because you hit 10 and you are either going to skyrocket to 20 and die or you're going to end up at 0. So
yeah. Or you just spend that time like chasing 10, right?
Exactly.
You chase 10 all the time. Because, yeah, it's like my life would be easier if I didn't do comedy.
I know, but we do it because we need that, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know what's wrong with me.
I don't know
to necessitate
either.
It, right? But like, yeah, so going back to my wife, I think like she knows that it's the thing. She's like, she married me because I was funny. Like that was part of the arrangement. And then, but then it's a lot of time away. Like one thing I wanted to ask is how do you find it like being. Like, how often are you out doing comedy?
Lately, it hasn't been as much. Like, I'd say for me right now, it's like once a week. It used to be a lot more. I work in tech, so I travel a lot.
Okay.
I'm away like a little more than 25% of the year.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be a better mom. Plus, I teach Pilates on the weekends. But I feel like it's hard for me to only go once a week because I feel FOMO, but I really need to. It's really because of my daughter.
Yeah.
So my husband DJs every Friday, and so we kind of have an agreement. But the thing about my husband is DJing is not a party for him because he is an introvert.
Yes.
And what he found was if I have a gig, then it turned into an excuse to stay out super late. And we really need to have a schedule where we go to bed early, wake up early. So I don't do it as much, but it's really just because I'm trying to be a better mom. I used to be a really shitty mom.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I really didn't want to be home for bedtime.
Okay.
Like she's not a good conversationalist. But I'm like just being vulnerable. Like I'm trying to be a better mom, so I do less comedy.
Yeah. Yeah,
nobody misses me. Everyone needs the spots.
Yeah.
But producing keeps me in the game.
Yeah. I'm out 3 to 4 nights a week.
Yeah, you're out and you've done it right. I also think that out of like you're not newer, but you did it right. You're respectful. You're not cocky, but you're also confident. You're not like laying a jacket down for a big comic to walk on you.
No.
I think that I've just watched you and I've been around you and you're courteous, you're kind, but also you're also confident. So I think that you're doing great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's it's tough. Like I was saying, like 3 to 4 nights a week, and I feel like that's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
No, it's.
Like,
I mean, if you want to blow up, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that hurts.
No, I mean, just because these are I've watched a lot of my friends blow up, and I won't mention any names, but they're out 3-4 times at night.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Do you know what you want? Or are you just happy to do it?
I want to do comedy full time, but I think that what that looks like in Canada is different because I don't think that doing mics every single night is actually necessarily advantageous.
Yeah, I don't, and a lot of people say that. A lot of people say it's better to write.
You need to be writing, you need to be reviewing what you wrote and making changes rather than doing the same jokes that don't work.
Unless you have stage fright and you cannot talk in a mic.
So and that's the other thing is if you need experience, the thing with me, I don't talk about it a lot. It's like I used to speak in church. I got into university for theater. So I've never
theater, the plot thickens.
Yeah, so like I've always been comfortable on stage and I played music in front of giant crowds, right? So like I don't have stage fright in that sense. So for me it's like I need to write funny jokes and bits and like do that stuff. Stage comfort, you can always get better at it.
And you're going to mics as well, yeah?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So my thing is, I don't do mics. And so the show that I do is a show, but I need to start. So I'm going to call you. I'm trying to do maybe one mic a week because I think just to be out there. You know what I mean? Because my show used to be monthly and then now it's quarterly. And that's how it works. You barter. So people are like, you want to get booked? And then, and then at some point, and I'm good. Like, I'll book them back, even if I don't think they're funny. But I work it out and I use the placement to make it good. But I actually want to start doing mics as well. My thing is I'm resolute to like, I think I'm going to be that person. Oh, I forget her name. Leanne. There's this comic who's older.
Yeah, I know Leanne. I can't remember her last name either, but she's very funny.
And I saw people being like, I don't know how you watch this garbage. And I find her so refreshing. I was talking to
I've seen her do great.
Same. Yeah. And David Spade posted about her.
Yeah.
But Bria Hebert said this to me once when we were high at like a weed room. And I said, I just feel, and I'm really vulnerable with people. I tell them the truth. I'm like, I have such low self-esteem with comedy. I have such highs, but I have so much more going on. And I feel like I have to focus on it. I have major FOMO. I feel old. All of I'm 40 and like all of my friends in comedy, they come over for dinner. They're like 25 and super hot. And she's like, you know what? You're going to get somewhere. It might be when you're retired, but everyone's going to love it. And I think that's like what I'm thinking. I think I'm going to stay in the community, focus on the things that I need to focus on today, which is my kid because she's young and I'm naturally a shitty mom. But I want to keep my foot in and then maybe my life will change and she'll get older, but that's the reason I don't do it as much is I think that I've kind of resulted to being like, oh, the people that come up with me, many of them already have their specials.
Well, and the thing is, I mean, there's two ways to think about it because to me, I started comedy. My kids were already a little older. They were already past like the toddler phase.
Because where are they now?
They're 11 and 9.
Right, because Ziggy's 4 now.
Yeah, so you're almost there. You like 2 years to go, and she'll need you a little, like a less enough for you to be out like a couple more nights a week.
Yeah, because now it's like a punishing, like, wow, you're not home for bedtime.
Yeah, right. So it's, they're still young.
And because I'm away, so then I'm gonna go to do comedy after I was gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's right. You're going away for work, and then, but then the other thing the other way that you could think of it though is that, like for me, like married, house, kids, I have all the things.
Yes.
That people who are young and doing comedy don't have yet,
and won't shut up about how they're not going to get it.
Well, or once they decide that they do want it, they'll have to quit.
Yes.
Like if you want to get a house, if you want to have kids, these are all things that will take you out of comedy. So
isn't it amazing though that you have these things that, and I kind of get tired of it, of like, okay, everyone's doing the joke about how you can't afford a house.
Yeah.
And some of us do have a house and we don't really talk about it because that makes you shit. But isn't it funny that all of the things that everyone wants, we've got it. And it's like, I really just wish I was doing more comedy too.
I know, but I wish I was.
Like, would I give up my house to be more successful? To be honest, no, because I don't have that much self-confidence that I would get there. Maybe I wouldn't have either.
But the thing is, like, it's not a put down, but it's like a lot of the most successful Canadian comedians like are pretty close to the poverty line.
Yeah.
Right? Like how many people do we know who have been on Just for Laughs or who have attained whatever credit and they were on CERB, right? And the sad thing about Canadian comedy is that like you can make it in terms of like doing all the things there is to do in Canadian comedy, but you can walk away without a living.
Well, and I just want to say that for the comics who are so good with what they are making and that somehow like I am so impressed with the commitment. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm 40. I even if like I don't know if I am committed enough to be, if I had a different life and a different upbringing and a different financial, if I could be 35 with roommates, I don't know if I could do it. That's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
And if you make that sacrifice and really hone in your skill, then you know what? I really try to manage jealousy because I have to remember that I'm running out right now once a week. These are people that have devoted everything. They don't, I mean, Nick Nemiroff, said, his family said when he died that like to the women that he loved, that he could never give them the commitment because this was what he was doing.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow. Like and I just admire. I don't know if I could do it at even a little less than my age, is have 4 roommates and not be able to buy whatever the fuck I want. I mean, I steal steak for fun, not out of need. I'm bored.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's it's all to say, there are sacrifices in everyone, and I think like for each of those decisions, whether to me, there's no point in really thinking about it, because for me, I had such low self-esteem through life that like I just never thought of doing comedy as like a real option. But that's for other people's. Those are other people's dreams.
Yeah.
That's not for me.
yeah.
It was only when I started, I like feel good about myself, that I thought, oh, maybe I should like take a crack at this.
Well, one thing is, I remember seeing you at Absolute one time, and you came up to me after, and you're like, "Oh, thanks for being there for me, man."
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was a tough one.
But it wasn't. You did great, and I must have felt a lot different, but I respect how you felt. But I actually was like, I enjoyed it, and it wasn't a fake laugh. You did great, but I hope that that you do feel better about yourself than you used to.
Oh yeah, I mean, like it's more just like. I just want everybody rolling all the time, right? And not every show. I did Absolute yesterday. Or Thursday night, and like it was tough. Like that's the crazy thing about comedy, is that you're never done, because every gig is different.
Let's just do whatever.
So I lost track of time. Usually I have like a watch that tells me when we've gone for like an hour. So to the
It's
viewers,
the Filipino in me.
Yeah, to the viewers and listeners, my computer ran out of space somewhere at the end of the conversation. So I just thank you for coming. I think we that just conversation we just went.
Deep.
I liked it a lot. That was great.
I always enjoy talking to you, so I knew I was gonna have a great time.
Yeah, it was good. It worked out. I knew that you would be a good guest too. That's why I was just like, I had no idea that you were raised Seventh-day Adventist. So when you reached out, I was just like, yeah, I gotta get you in. So Carolina DG, thanks for coming in. Thanks everybody for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you. Bye.
Bye.